The word was spoken by the mouth of the prophets. Let it be. Times of hard working and poverty of souls, the flesh is at a crossroads. Behind the walls of lies, vices of hearts, the human heart despises the truth. Doomed to misery, blind slaves, systems of hungry spawn. And among all this crowd, nuggets hide in empty apartments on the outskirts of cities, tormented by everyone and at all times, utter the word of life with pure lips. The weak string will sink into the deep of oppression, and after it, a new life will be reborn under the all-seeing eye of God, the Spirit of Truth.
I welcome you to the platform Movement to the Light. We'll not tell you how to act, how to think, and what to do. We only give you access to information and how to dispose of it. Decide for yourself. I want to say in advance that you should not look for justice, but you should look for yourself and your place in this world. Because in the world of manipulation and deception, it is difficult to find the right answers. There will also be no answers from our side. Only keys will be given, so that you can independently participate in the assembly of the game called life. And today it's time for the 20th series. Difficulties and development. Life is development, this is its basis. Any development comes from difficulties, because difficulties determine what to live and what to die. Life differs from death in that there is strength in it, but in death there is only weakness. A person is a part of life, is its product. Therefore, a person who strives to live will face difficulties. Since difficulties are an integral part of development, it will be different if a person decides in favor of comfort, because comfort renounces difficulties, and renunciation of difficulties is a dead path. Because life is arranged differently. Human development is based on the knowledge of the inner world. This is the basis. Any knowledge is based on interaction with the world, on the acceptance of its imperfections. The more a person devotes himself to the knowledge of the inner world, the more he strives to know the external world, to know it in all its colors. The more he strives to work to make the world a better place, because he knows that the development of life is in overcoming difficulties. This person knows that it is imperfect, just as the world in which he lives is imperfect. But the desire for knowledge breaks the boundaries between personality and truth. The main thing is that a person should remember that the desire to protect himself from the world, the desire for comfort, the desire for false ideals make a person's path empty. Because there is no truth in it, but there is a lie at every stage. Only the acceptance of difficulties as an integral part of life, only the acceptance of other people's imperfections for the realization of the inner world, only this makes a person, makes him free from prejudice, false thoughts, and allows him to enter a new stage of development. Life is such a wonderful word, and how many epithets, how many things can be invited from this world. How many works have been written that try to describe life and its difficulties. Difficulties in the works of great writers, this is no integral part of the script. The question is, why should there be any difficulties, obstacles, conflicts in the work? Why is it impossible that everything in the play was good from the very beginning and everything ended just as well? The answer to this question is very simple. The fact is that the reader is not interested when everything is good. The reader is very hooked by the drama and suffering that the main character have to go through on the way to happiness. In some works, the reader can even recognize himself in the characters or his relatives, friends and acquaintances, so the work wins worldwide recognition because it describes the heroes of our time, ordinary people, as accurately as possible through literature heroes. And the practice of life shows people do not strive to live quietly. People are necessarily inherent in looking for adventures. Some are looking for them so zealously that they break their own and someone else's fate, and maybe even more than one. And then in their old age they remember how they parted in their youth. As a result, the whole life of people is more devoted to imaginary difficulties, is devoted to creating problem out of nothing, and then the whole life is devoted to successfully overcoming them. But unfortunately or fortunately, life is arranged differently. Life is created for development and multiplication. Living for real, a person learns the inner content, doing something useful for the world day after day. Only for most people this is the most boring occupation, cause the soul so requires adventures, not overcoming, although it was written. Learn to accept life as it is. But as mentioned earlier, people are looking for adventures in every possible way, trying to distort real life, cause for them it is boring, and it is boring cause stupidity has become the basis of life, has become a reality in the minds of many people. Now they are looking for a way out of this stupidity, looking for opportunities to do everything in their own way, rather than learn the rules of life, acting in unison with it. After all, this requires effort, and who of the people likes to work? After all, this will require overcoming constructive difficulties, and who of the people wants to leave the comfort zone? Exactly, the zone, cause comfort in the 21st century has become a kind of prison for the mind, and everything in this prison has rules, but these rules are more like anarchy, where laziness is the main supervisor and theory is the main advisor. Yes, only people forget that there are rules of life, and they are above the rules that lead to death. Therefore, get rid of the obsession to have fun. Don't act impulsively. Don't get hung up on yourself. Don't let envy and lust rule your life, and get rid of attachment to your desires. And what a happiness! For me personally, it would be to meet a person who observes at least one rule from this list, but I have not met such people, only vanity, only a thirst to snatch as much as possible, and preferably in less time. That's what I meet everywhere, and all this is multiplied by stupidity of universal proportions, where there is no respect, no understanding, no even dialogue. They constantly point out to you that it would be great to have a better car, a bigger house, how it would be great to go to the best resorts in different parts of the world, at least 2 times a year. And I haven't heard a word from people that how it would be great to make another person's better life, how it would be great to devote time to helping other people. Just like it would be great to arrange a holiday in a person's life from the heart. And the whole problem lies in the false beliefs that have filled people's mind, and now these beliefs are those tablets control the whole life of a person. But in order to become a person with a capital letter, it is worth keeping in mind other postulates such as: stay open to the world, not to be a slave to your possessions. Learn to get rid of instability. getting rid of things in favor of minimalism and not to believe something just because you were told so. But people believe that they correspond to their biological desires. Many business courses are based on these courses on how to become rich and successful. These courses put pressure on the thirst for satiation, on the strongest instincts of a person. If he is in the level of low mental maturity, this level is borderline and is dependent on someone else's opinion, dependent on success, dependent on the opposite sex, dependent on fears, on false beliefs. This is a big game and a big illusion of the modern world where people put their lives on the line instead wanting to get a piece of a delicious pie. Thus, people lose both, and life requires overcoming, requires that a person grows up, that he sacrifices himself and he's interested for the sake of achieving higher goals. These goals are a divine guidance which is revealed to a person as soon as he is ready. This conduct is not given to a person for nothing, because most people have not only not grown up to understand life, but have not grown up even to its realization, which is a step lower, although those people who put everything on the line solely for the sake of realizing their talents will lose, because they didn't understand that realization is not the main stage of life, but self-knowledge is the main stage. And people who have put everything on the study of life and on its cognition will win by making all the necessary efforts for this, because these people, they respect God, but don't rely solely on His help. They are not afraid to die, don't use weapons unnecessarily. They have no desire to own something even in old age, and they always defend their honor. But what is an honor for a God-fearing person then? An empty sound for a stupid person, and you will have to accept it, accept that the world is imperfect. You are imperfect, that you are not better to or worse than others, so the race doesn't make sense. You will have to accept that everything in this world was, is, and will be. Everything in the world will remain in its place, and you will remain in your place. The only question is, do you understand it? Do you accept it? Do you at least realize it or not? These are very deep questions that you will have to master on your own. And when you come to these right conclusions, you will really find the tools that will make you reconsider the whole picture of the world and consider your place in this picture. It will hurt sometimes, even too much. After all, the world of illusions will collapse, and a new house will have to be built in its place. And this house can't be built alone. You, as a warrior, need to rely on a senior authorities whom you will have to look for everywhere and everywhere. Because it was laid down by God that a person should learn from a person, so that everything would be in order. The heavenly authorities will provide you with the ways that will lead you to the truth, but you will go along this path yourself. It will require courage from you, it will require dedication, it will require many qualities, but only after going all the way from the beginning to the end, you'll be able to find your real self and know life. Results. The knowledge of life begins with the collapse of illusions. The collapse of illusions is the most painful stage. Accepting life as it opens up a spiritual code to a person, this code is unshakable and gives a person a path to development. The path of development always goes through overcoming difficulties. The ability to distinguish constructive difficulties from stupid adventures is a human task. A spiritual teacher is a landmark that lays a strong foundation. Having passed the lesson of life, a person will become a person and will find grace. And one last thing, remember, one series will not give an exhaustive answer to everything. We did this intentionally so that you would come to the conclusion that there is no one answer to everything, that the answer to everything lies in the answers to many questions. We'll analyze these questions in the following series, which will complement each other, so that you have a complete picture, because the whole, although it is a combination of many details, is not always identical to them. Like courage, although it is a combination of a strong character, it is not a character initially, and in order for a person's character to still have the courage to overcome difficulties, it will require making the right efforts. We'll finish this today. Peace be upon you and your home.